Welcome to RuralStrong, where we talk real challenges and bold solutions in rural economic development. I'm your host, Joe Barker. Let's get into it. Welcome to RuralStrong. This is your podcast host, Joe Barker, and we are broadcasting today from the Southwest Tennessee Development District podcast studio in beautiful downtown Jackson, Tennessee. And our guest today is Lindsay Theobald. She's a prominent economic development leader in Tennessee, but not only Tennessee, really throughout all the Southeast. She currently serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the Obion County Joint Economic Development Corporation in Union City, Tennessee. And she's been in that role since 2009, and she has facilitated the creation of thousands of jobs and secured hundreds of millions of dollars in capital investments for the region. Lindsay, welcome to RuralStrong.
Thanks, Joe. I'm glad to be here. I'm in downtown Union City myself today, so I'm glad to be able to talk to you.
Well, you mentioned Union City, and for our listeners out there, tell our folks about Union City, Obion County, where you are geographically, and a few things about the community where you live.
Sure. Union City and Obion County are in the northwest part of the state of Tennessee. So for those people that want to automatically say, is that near Knoxville? I'm like, no, it's on the opposite end of the state from Knoxville. We are almost to the Mississippi River, and we border Kentucky. So I'm about 4 or 5 miles from the Kentucky border right now. And it's beautiful up here. If you've not been, you should come.
It is a beautiful area, and Lindsay's correct. Lindsay lives closer to St. Louis than she does Knoxville, for sure, and I have to throw that in because I'm a big Cardinal fan, and I have to promote them when I can. But Lindsay leads an organization that has done great work up there, and Lindsay, is you're an organization where all the economic development efforts come under an umbrella? Are you separate? How's your organization structured?
So, yes, historically, our chamber actually was established in 1923. So we're over 100 years old as a chamber of commerce. And the Obion County Industrial Development Corporation, which is not an IDB, it is not an industrial board, it is an economic development organization, just like a chamber, like a membership organization. And it was established in the late 80s. And in the early 2000s, they decided to merge the two entities under the Joint Economic Development Corporation. So you have two 501c6 organizations, the Obion County Chamber of Commerce and the Obion County Industrial Development Corporation, that fall under a 501c3 Obion County Joint Economic Development Corporation, who is technically our employer, and the beauty of that is we have a 501c6 organization and 501c3. So when it comes to getting grants and things, we have the flexibility to really pursue various avenues for those reasons.
Lindsay, we have listeners out there, I'm sure, that look at their organization and how they can be more efficient. And what do you think the advantages are to having an umbrella type organization where the people work closely together, particularly in rural areas?
Synergy, just the synergy in the office, the vibe that you get. I mean, we tend to fall in love with economic development and or chamber world. Most people, it's one or the other, but for me, especially in the smaller communities, it's kind of a smaller pool of people and you're all doing the same work in the same space, and having it all in one. Like if I'm out trying to recruit a major industry to Obion County and, get down to the last few visits and whatnot, I can't effectively sell the community if I don't know what's going on in the community. So marrying the chamber piece into the economic development piece and me knowing about what's going on on the ground, what business is here, small business there. You're just able to really have a better sense of your overall community and be able to sell it to the outsiders from that perspective. And then just the beauty of being able to talk with your small business owners and encourage them to do business together, and support each other locally, because, at the end of the day, these are the people you see in Walmart, you see them at church, you see them at the ballparks. And it's a special feeling in a community our size to be able to have all of that wrapped up into one organization.
Let me ask you this, Lindsay. You're certainly in an area that would be described as rural. From an economic development standpoint, what's the biggest challenges you face being from a rural community?
The one that I hear the most from people at the site selection level, project managers, is that rural perception makes them think we don't have the workforce. Just automatically, they're like, "Oh, we couldn't send 1,000 or 2,000 job employer up there," and that it's really heartbreaking to me, because I grew up. My dad worked for Goodyear. At their peak, they employed 3,000 people, and they were the largest employer in the region. So I know we can support a major employer like that, and to be just automatically cut because of that rural perception, which, we are rural, but it doesn't mean that we don't have the workforce, and people, they will definitely drive for a good paying, high quality job.
So, and I know Obion County has some major employers, and you might want to talk about some of those and what you did to overcome the rural perception in recruiting those industries.
Well, we do. Our largest employer is Tyson Foods. So, and their only customer is McDonald's at our facility. So if you've had a chicken McNugget from McDonald's, there's a good chance that it came from Union City. And they employ over 1,700 people directly, which is huge, a huge driver for the economy, because then you've got, growers and all of the people that support that business that aren't directly employed by Tyson. And then a couple of years back, Tyson actually acquired our second largest employer, which is Williams Sausage, which is a company that was started locally here in Obion County decades ago. And so now you've got two major, food processors in the area under one global umbrella, which is, great to have. And then once you get out of those two, then we have Kohler. They make the glass shower doors here. That's a large employer. Of course, not necessarily manufacturing, but Baptist Hospital is a huge employer. They employ about 250 to 300 people in that facility. And then we've got some other manufacturers and tool and die operations as well.
So when you talk about workforce, how do you work with your local industries, your local educational facilities? How do you bring all that together to make sure that they have the skills that your employers need?
Well, some would say I just wear them out. I stay in constant communication with them in one way or the other. And I'm constantly talking to, my chamber board has the assistant superintendent on our board. We've had the CTE director on our board of directors. And just talking about that, the diversity, bringing in our fire chief, our sheriff, library, all kinds of different people. And so instead of just having a board meeting every other month or so, we have a board outing. And we took them just this last month to tour the career and technical program at Obion County Central High School, because they offer 21 or 22 different CTE paths, from cosmetology to aviation to carpentry to auto body, mechatronics. And so the more that I can introduce the general public and leaders of our community into what our public school systems have to offer, then that's just better, because they understand it. They can be salespeople of our workforce, because obviously that's our pipeline. Our pipeline is in our high schools too. So we have a really close connection with both Union City and Obion County school systems. We do mock interviews. We help get job fairs together in those school systems. And then, of course, we're in a sweet spot between the University of Tennessee at Martin, Dyersburg State, TCAT. We have a satellite campus here in Union City. And then anytime I'm in front of them or anytime I've been in front of an employer, I'm talking about each other back and forth.
And when you talk about a rural area and prospects or getting prospects in the pipeline, do most of your prospects come through the state? Do you get prospects that contact you directly before they contact the state? How does that work mostly in your region?
Mostly, we rely on the state of Tennessee economic development and TVA economic development for prospects. Now, we do have people that contact me directly because we have an industrial park in Troy and an industrial park in Union City. And both of those have my phone number on them and said, industrial land for sale. We did sell the building we had in Troy, so that there for a little while we had a building for sale. And I do a lot of networking through various organizations and associations, the Tennessee Economic Development Council, Southern Economic Development Council, serving even in executive roles with those organizations gives me an opportunity to have more face time with site consultants throughout the country because, economic development is a relationship business. So networking with those folks and staying in front of them, they don't need to know the specs, the water, wastewater, all that of the industrial park, but they need to know, well, Lindsay's in Northwest Tennessee. Lindsay has a large industrial park with utilities and infrastructure in place. So, that's a small percentage of it, but that's a lot of work too that goes into making sure people know about Obion County.
And my experience in Tennessee, working with prospects that we get through the state, I would have to say it's a pretty seamless process that you get the information and then you follow through on it. Talk a little bit about your experience with the state and really how that flow works once you get the initial contact.
So, yeah, I'd say that I probably wear the state out a little bit too, because I'm always trying to make sure they know exactly what building might be available if something becomes available. But they will, are through the state project managers, they send to their regional representatives who then send to us the request for information or RFIs. And, you look through it and you can self-eliminate if it says we've got to have a building of this size and so on and so forth. And if I don't have that, then I go ahead and I reply to everybody and say, hey, look, Obion County doesn't fit this need. But I do that intentionally just to kind of stay top of mind to those folks to know that, well, Lindsay's looking at it. Lindsay can't, respond to it, but at least that they just remember that we're here. And if it's, if it is a building, I might say, but, if it changes, remember, we've got the industrial park here. So, it's like you said, it's pretty seamless when that comes in and flows to us, and everyone's different. Some of them we can finish in 10 minutes and some of them might take us 10 hours to complete to answer all the questions. So sometimes that takes a little bit more back and forth and clarification, but I really enjoy it. I think it's fun.
And we have another huge partner in our region, and you've already mentioned them, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and I find more and more as we talk to prospects, the availability of power is critical. And how important is that relationship that you have with TVA?
Well, not just TVA, through my local power company, our local power company is one of our largest supporters of economic development because, the benefit comes back to them and new ratepayers. So I work pretty seamlessly with our TVA economic development rep and local power companies. But TVA, not only are they involved in, I would say almost every RFI that has come from the state lately has said, and also copy so-and-so team member from TVA. So they're working on this stuff hand in hand, which is great because, we're fortunate that we do have a lot of excess power because we don't have Goodyear, that major employer that did use as much power in the past. But, just having TVA at the table from the get-go makes it very important. But I also strategically go ahead and loop in the local power company just to make sure, something hasn't changed on the local load and provider side that might impact a potential customer. But TVA offers a plethora of other services in the form of training and workshops and seminars and listing our properties on TVA sites. So, if people aren't utilizing their TVA and state partners, they should be.
And I think one thing that I've seen that's critical is, economic development is like a lot of other fields. It has evolved, and there are different things now that we have to focus on. And I've come to the conclusion that housing and quality of life are huge economic drivers. And I'd like to just get your thoughts, someone that's had your experience, on how important it is to recruit by having housing available and having that quality of life that these companies look for.
Quality of life, as you said, with everything has evolved and changed over the years. It was kind of at the bottom of the list when a company was looking. They were looking at location, workforce, product, infrastructure, and quality of life would fall number 7, number 10. And it has definitely moved up. It's you can just see with new generations of people want more ability to spend time with their family. They want flexibility. They want to live where they work and where they play and all that. They want that sense of community. So being able to live and work all relatively close in an area is important, which I think rural areas have a great advantage in that space. And, I can't tell you, Joe, how many years we've been talking about housing in our board meetings, but even housing is back in 2016, I hired a consultant to do a workforce study for us. And that study pulled in business leaders, community leaders, and industry in separate meetings, then kind of brought them all together. And at the end of that meeting, what our top 2 issues were with getting people to work were transportation and childcare. And that was in 2016. And that's still an issue today. So housing's at the top of that list, childcare's at the top of that list, and just transportation is up there too. So I serve on the workforce development board, so I try to stay engaged in that aspect. And then also we have a Promethean Foundation, which scholarships children from birth to kindergarten into childcare for free. So I serve on that board too. So they work and they do training in childcare facilities with childcare teachers. So it's not just we're going to give you kids and pay for it. Like they elevate those childcare centers by supporting their efforts and their employees. And I have learned so much about childcare and in that childcare space just by serving and listening to that board and how that works and the scoring and the way they go in and evaluate, which is a selling point in and of itself, because I dare to say there's not a Promethean Foundation anywhere around. We haven't found one yet. So it is an absolute asset to our workforce.
And that's fabulous. And I know you see this when you talk to potential companies coming into your area. More of these companies than ever before are providing child care services as part of their business plan because it is so necessary.
Yeah. And we always have Tyson, obviously our largest employer. They're 24/7. So is Williams Sausage. So is Baptist. So we kind of have a whole nother dynamic when it comes to childcare in the fact that we have so many people employed on multiple shifts. So that we're always making sure that, as a matter of fact, the complex manager of Tyson is on this Promethean board with us. And when Tyson decided to build a facility in Humboldt, we spent hours and days working with Tyson corporate officials to help them because they built that child care facility on site, and they they spent a lot of time talking with us, and we did everything we could to support them and help them to build that to be successful.
All right, let's talk about another aspect of economic development and a driver for success. And you certainly live in an area that's known for the outdoors, for duck hunting, for all these types of things. Plus, you have something up there that a lot of us are envious of, and it's called Discovery Park of America. So, talk about the outdoor adventures and Discovery Park of America.
It's funny, I just left an Obion County tourism meeting. So, serving on that board, that's kind of the fun board. We get to talk about all the fun things that we get to do. We're going to be hosting a fishing tournament in June as part of the Bill Dance Signature Lake program with the Department of Tourism. So, we're all really excited about that. But Reelfoot Lake is shared between Obion and Lake County. It was actually formed by an earthquake in 1812. So it's the only earthquake-made lake in the state of Tennessee, and it is known for its outdoor duck hunting, fishing, bird watching, kayaking, some of the most beautiful sunsets you'll ever see at Reelfoot Lake. And it brings in tons and tons of tourism dollars and visitor spending. And then we were fortunate, the Kirkland Foundation, which is also the supporter of the Promethean Foundation. Mr. Kirkland created that program, but he decided to build Discovery Park of America. And the most simplest way to describe that is it's a Smithsonian-style museum in the middle of a cornfield. And it's a 100,000 square foot Discovery Center with 50 acres. So you've got outdoor space, a Japanese garden, botanical garden, a children's play area, log cabins, grist mill, Main Street area, train depot. They've got a stage for concerts. They have Rhythm on the Rails out there every year. And they drive over 250,000 people to this area annually. And Obion County is 26 out of the 95 counties for tourism, the economic impact of tourism, which is only behind Jackson and Memphis in West Tennessee.
Well, it's a fabulous facility. I've been there many times, and I can certainly say, and I know you'll echo this, that Obion County is very fortunate to have Discovery Park of America.
Mr. Kirkland would say he wanted it to be the place you could have the most fun with your clothes on. That's the kind of person he was.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's a family-oriented
yes.
Park. It really is. You touched a little bit earlier on your existing industry, but tell our listeners, maybe from your career and experience, how do you actually maintain what I would call active engagement with your existing industries?
Well, I have all of the plant managers' cell phone numbers, number one, which is most important. But I don't really say that I have a structured rigorous plan to go visit my industry. Like this morning, I had a call with Poet. So we have an ethanol facility here, and they've just purchased the facility. And I sent an email last week to them about there was an announcement in Kentucky about an hour from here on biofuel waste. It's a new industry coming, and I knew that it might create some synergy with Green Plains, which prompted the call today. So I'm always just out thinking about trying to anticipate needs that the industry might have, but also when I hear about, a new workforce program that TCAT is implementing or something that University of Tennessee is doing, I'll just send those out to the industry through email, and I may follow up one-on-one. I may call them. I also like to get to know, obviously, HR managers, but I like to go out and walk around on the floors as often as I can because I like to see who's working in those facilities, because it's kind of a funny joke. Somebody told me one time, they're like, we kind of either get scared or excited when you come in because something really good might happen or something really bad might happen. I'm like, well, don't think that, because sometimes I'm just there for a visit. But and then, if somebody works at a facility and you see them out you ask them about it, and then you get the perspective of the employee versus the employer at a facility. And sometimes, you might pick up on something that somebody else hasn't let you on to yet, and you could follow up on it. So I just like going and seeing, feeling, touching as often as possible, and really kind of knowing, who's where and who's working, doing what space, but then really trying to see how we can support those industry. Because, I have Jiffy Steamer here. They make handheld garment steamers and stand-up steamers. They've been in business over 80 years in Obion County. And during COVID, they were sourcing things from the state of Kentucky and the state of Michigan, and those states were shut down, and they couldn't get some hoses and components for their steamers. So I wrote letters to the governors of those states trying to help them, because they were using those in the medical field for sanitation purposes and sanitizing things. And long story short, he now sources one of them from Greenfield and one of them from Jackson, Tennessee. So, I feel like anything that I can do to strengthen Tennessee, West Tennessee, Northwest Tennessee in that way is a win for all of us.
Talk a little bit about, first of all, you've been in your position, 16, 17 years now.
Yes.
And you've seen a lot of local elected officials come and go.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that transition? And I guess one reason I bring it up is this is an election year, and particularly in Tennessee, where we've got a lot of elections for our local elected officials this year. How do you transition that from one administration to another and make sure that they're supportive of your efforts and your organization's efforts?
Well, luckily, the folks that have decided to run for office over the years previously have come to us. They said, everybody's told me we need to come talk to you. We need to come talk to you. So hopefully I want to be the resource hub of the community, whatever it is, whether it's education, healthcare, economic development. If somebody has a question or needs to know something, I want them to think about us. I want them to call us. So if somebody's decided they're going to run and they call me up, then I just make time to sit down and talk to them. Whether I'm supportive of the candidate or not supportive of the candidate, it doesn't matter to me, because I look at it as an opportunity to talk about Obion County, to sell Obion County, even to an existing citizen, because they need to be reminded of all of the great things that we have here. And, in the event they win, then, hopefully we've already established a relationship. I try to do that on the front end versus waiting until somebody gets elected. I try to help educate them. I mean, if they're running, and they're out campaigning, I want to equip them with the best information they can have about our community. And if they win, great. If they don't, that's okay too, because hopefully they've learned something, I've learned something, and somebody else they've talked to has learned something about our area. And, in this job, I kind of like it because you can stay politically neutral, as you should. And I just work with whomever's in office. And if somebody else wants to, I do encourage people to run for office, because we the local adult leadership program, and we make them attend a county commission meeting before they can graduate from the program, because local politics matter. They are so important, and so many people are disengaged from that, and they think about state representatives and state senators and U.S. senators, and they forget that the people making the day-to-day decisions are the people that are serving on your city councils and your county commissions and your school boards and things like that.
Well, evidently you found the secret to it, being there as long as you have and with the success you've had. In the couple of minutes we've got left, Lindsay, talk about your role with the Southern Economic Development Council and what that organization really does.
So the Southern Economic Development Council is a 17-state membership organization for economic developers, attorneys, engineers. There's private people that are part of the association as well. And it's basically the southern states, even though it's Maryland down to Florida, across over to Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. And I actually served on that board back 2013 to 2016. So every state has 2 directors that they elect to serve on the big board of directors. And then you've got some executive positions. You have 3 regional reps. And I was a regional rep last year. And then I ran for office for treasurer. And then once you become treasurer, you move up to second vice president, first vice president, chairman, and then obviously past. The Southern Economic Development Group really, I mean, Joe, I could call somebody in every single one of those 17 states right now and know that if I needed something, I had somebody there that could help in one way, personally, professionally, whatever. It's just as tight as we are in Tennessee with our economic development network. Imagine that amplified by 17 states. And I've learned so much, and I've learned so much personally to help here in my job in Obion County. But we talked a little bit about TVA and the state of Tennessee economic development. It's really shown me how fortunate we are in Tennessee with the programs and the support, site development grants, product readiness, because not every state has all of the resources that we have in Tennessee to support economic development. And then on top of that, you have conferences where site selectors from all over the country come in and speak, and you get the opportunity to talk to them, ask questions on panels, go to networking receptions, take to dinner. And then, which now as an executive board meeting, I have more interaction with those site selectors, which at the end of the day, those are the people we want to be in front of.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier in our discussion that economic development is a relationship business. And I can tell our listeners that no one collaborates, no one creates partnerships better than Lindsay. And Lindsay, before we leave, if somebody's listening and they want to find out more information about your organization or Obion County in general, how can they do that?
Well, our website's a good starting point. It's obioncounty.org, OBIONCOUNTY.org. It's pretty comprehensive. If you want to visit, go there. If you want to join the chamber, go there. If you want to invest as a business, you go there. It's a one-stop shop website to find us. And you can always call us at 731-885-0211.
Okay, Lindsay Theobald has been our guest today, one of the shining stars in economic development in the entire Southeast. Lindsay, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on Rural Strong. If you found this helpful, share it and follow the show for more insights from rural leaders making a real difference. Until next time, stay rural strong.